ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very, very special evening. We're kicking off the ISpeakForYou.net book club with Betsy Kramer Andreu, and we're going to be calling her in just a moment. But, of course, you can hashtag us. The hashtag for the show is hashtag ISpeakForYouRadio. We've been listening to Swimming with Bears, a great band out of South Texas. You can find them on Twitter at Swim with Bears. My name is Mark Purnell from ISpeakForYou.net. We've got a lot to talk about. Again, you can tweet with us. The Twitter, of course, again, ISpeakForYouRadio. And, of course, the books we're going to be going over tonight, Cycle of Lies by Juliet McClure and The Wheelmen by Reed Albergotti and Vanessa O'Connell. Talked to Vanessa a little bit earlier. And if you are a fan of Lance or not a fan of Lance, you can have your expression. You can have what you want to say here on this show. Again, the Twitter handle is the hashtag ISpeakForYouRadio. And we've got a lot to say, a lot to go over, and I'll be calling Betsy here in just a few moments. But what is your thoughts on this, of course, and on Lance? And I'm going to take a little bit of both sides because I'll let you know a little bit about my history. I raced against Lance when I was a kid. I've been an announcer when Lance has had races and everything. And my personal philosophy is there's so much to be said about this. And my thoughts are numerous as well as I'll hold those closely. But we're going to call her right now coming up, and we're going to go ahead and put them on. Good evening. Who do I have on the phone?
Oh, Brian.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine.
What can we do for you tonight?
Well, I was just calling in for the discussion.
So which book would you like to talk about first, sir?
I've read them both.
And what's your take on it?
I think Wheelman's a better look at the business of him, and then Cycle of Lies is a little bit more personal.
It is. And do you have you followed Lance? I mean, and when did you become familiar with Lance Armstrong or what's going on?
Well, I was a fan of cycling, and going back to the '80s. So I knew who he was prior to his, his launch to fame following '99. I knew who he was. In fact, I'm local down here in North Texas. I knew who he was as a triathlete coming up. And, I bought into the story for a long, long time. And then finally, one thing after another just started building up, and it was just too much.
Yeah, like myself, I've got, obviously, I'm sure you have as well. I got family members that have been affected by cancer and everything like that. They've all read his book. It's not about the bike. And it was a dream come true, obviously, for him to beat cancer. A lot of guys who haven't beaten cancer, and our thoughts and prayers out to those families. But to him to come back and win the Tour 7 times, obviously they had a little bit of help, which we know now. You being from North Texas, you're familiar with the story. Like you said, you saw him growing up. What do you think about it? What do you think about all this? Do you think that he's the scapegoat, or do you think that he's the ringleader, as everybody is saying?
Well, he wasn't the first, and I guess you can say he's a product of his generation. But, when the first, even back in '99, the first, there was that little mini scandal with the cortisone, and when he would come out and say, he'd make an unambiguous statement, I have never used performance-enhancing drugs. He didn't try to dance around it like other riders, would say, well, I've never tested positive and this and that. When he would make a unambiguous statement like that, I totally bought into it. When he would state it in that terms, which we know now was, just a complete fabrication, and I bought into that for a long time. And he would make those statements, pretty much till '95, till the end. even then I was still buying into it, and then slowly it got chipped away as people with no axe to grind would and nothing to gain would come out and make statements to the contrary.
That's so true. Are you currently still in cycling? Are you still a fan of cycling?
Oh yeah, I'm still a fan, and it's something I participate into. I'm still very much a fan.
Now, you coming from the 80s in cycling, and obviously you've been doing it a lot longer than most folks. Myself, same thing. I started riding in 81, 82. Got up into the Category 2 ranks, all that fun stuff. But there's folks, and this to be said about Lance, pro Lance kind of statement, is there are a lot of folks that never touched a bike until he started winning, and obviously Trek made billions of dollars off of him. But what do you say to those folks that got into cycling because of Lance, the Lance factor, as we call it, but they got into it and now they're like, you know what, I'm not going to do this anymore because Lance cheated me or lied to me?
Well, when he first became known to the general public, he pretty much transcended the sport, by a large margin. He wasn't just a star in cycling. He was a star. He was a celebrity. He became worldwide fame. And I would say to them, even though he became bigger than cycling, in the end, cycling is bigger than him. That it's a great activity, and no matter what he did and what he let down, it's still worth it, and it's still I never wavered in my enjoyment of it, or even watching it, even watching the races.
That's so true. That's so true. So you're still into cycling and everything. That's such a great thing. Do you feel, and we're going to be talking to Betsy here in just a few minutes, and I'm sure you'll be listening, do you feel that Lance should come out and literally to say, you know what, okay, no lawyers, I'm going to sit down in the room with Nancy Grace and Betsy and Frankie and all these folks and basically say exactly what happened and what I did?
Yeah. I mean, if you read Cycle of Lies, towards the end of it, it talks about, just after, the reasoned decision came out, and just how desperate he is to compete at something, and how that's, right down to his core. And if he's ever going to be able to do that, by the time, he's 50s, he's going to have to do something like that. But, America is, almost anyone can be redeemed in America, people that hit the very bottom, they can make a comeback. And I'm wondering if his pride is so strong that it might prevent him from, redeeming himself. When it's out there, he could do it. It's just, he's such so much pride. Who knows if he'll do it.
Yeah, and of course, there's so many lives that have been affected from all his denials and everything. Obviously, Betsy, Frankie, Emma, Tyler, Floyd. You can go. The list is on and on and on. So, of the two books, of course, Cycle of Lies and The Wheelman, which one would you recommend to a cycling fan or someone that says, "Hey, I want to know about this"? Which one would you recommend?
I might, since I read Cycle of Lies, most recently because it came out second, I might lean towards that one. The fact that you had access to those audio tapes from his good friend JT Neal, that's a real insight into him prior to all the fame, all the just the immense fame. That's a unique. What sets that apart? But they're both really good.
Again, I appreciate you calling in, my friend. I mean, obviously, a lot of process. This is going to go on for years and years and years. Being a cyclist yourself, real quick before I get Betsy on the line, is what do you think about the penalties that like Levi Leipheimer and those guys received just 6 months over winter months for their confession? What do you think about that, coming from a cycling background?
They made the deal. If you read, in Cycle of Lies, I learned that originally there was going to be no sanction, and then when Hincapie was given, even 6 months, those guys, they got bumped up to 6 months, and in Leipheimer's case, it ended up, due to his age, ended up being sort of a lifetime ban, because that was the end for him. So for him, it was pretty harsh. He paid a pretty heavy price. So, their coming forward really shed a lot of light on it. So I guess maybe that was worth what would be a relatively light punishment. And now, most of them, were at the end of their careers, and they removed themselves from Olympic consideration, and most of those guys are retired.
So true. So true. I appreciate you taking the time and calling in this evening, sir.
Okay.
All right. Keep riding. Keep riding.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. So you have the incredible insight of these young men. I've been riding since the early 80s, so he knows what's going on. And now I'm going to call Betsy and finally get her on the phone. I'm sorry, Betsy. She was yelling at me on Facebook. I'm sure she was tweeting me and all that good stuff. And we're going to get her on the phone.
Hello?
I'm so sorry, Betsy. We had someone call in right when I went on the air.
Oh, okay.
But he was a cyclist from the 80s, and he's from North Texas, so he knows Lance's story well from when he was a kid. And he was just saying that, like you have said, don't think his mentality or his ego will let him confess to everything.
Wait, you just broke up. Yeah, I just heard something about confess to everything.
No, he was the young man that just called was a rider from the 80s, and he from North Texas. Yeah, so he was saying that he doesn't think Lance has that ability to come out and confess everything.
No, I don't think so either. I would agree with him. I don't think it's in him, obviously.
Yeah, and he also said that of the two books, the Wheelman and Cycle of Lies, that he would recommend folks, because he just read it. It was just recently read by himself, that he would recommend Cycle of Lies to folks that wanted to know just about the inside of what's going on with Lance.
Oh, well, okay, wait, first of all, are we on the air right now?
No, we are on the air.
Okay. The two completely, totally different books.
Right.
The Wall Street Cycle of Lies is it delves more into the relationships, and I think it's very interesting, very, very good. The way that, just some of the little anecdotal stuff, or she completely debunks and just tears apart this whole he was born he was a poor kid to a single mom, and we now see that that's absolutely not true.
Right.
But Wheelman, I mean, they really, you got to hand it to those guys, because they broke about every major story there was to be. There's so many articles written in the Wall Street Journal, so many things that they did, and that Blood Brothers article with Floyd was really something that was a game changer. So I would say I would recommend both books. The Cycle of Lies is more of a, it's not going to get into the business aspect of it. That's what Wheelman does.
Right.
But they're both, if you're into this, they're both a good read. Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
That is so true. Now, in the Willman, like you said, it gets more into the business aspect of it and everything, and the Cycle of Lies is also into the personal side of it. And you and I have talked before, and Gary and I had a discussion earlier, that the business side of it in the Willman, as Vanessa and Reed has put, there were millions of dollars that are still being spent for this day to clear everybody's name, and not just Lance, but obviously Thomas and those guys.
Wait a minute, $1 million. What are you talking about? That they're spending their own money to clear their names?
No, they're not. As I was saying, there's when it first came out, and they in '95, and there was millions of dollars. I mean, obviously Nike, Oakley, Trek.
Yeah.
They were
going.
Yeah.
Okay, I know, but what is this, a question or a comment? I'm sorry.
No, it's just a comment. I mean, it was something that you and I have talked about, that Lance hadn't put out his own money yet until recently. Because Trek and those guys have been funding this.
Yeah, well, I would think so. And I mean, let's look. Livestrong paid what, $2-3 million in legal fees. I don't know if it's over a period of time for one specific year, but I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. So he doesn't have those coffers, and good. Let him delve into his own pocket. Let him ask some of his buddies for the money, some of the cycling buddies who are remaining loyal to him. Maybe they'll offer him some cash.
Because George is still making a lot of money on his cycling clothing, that's for sure.
Well, if people want to buy and support, what are you going to do?
Yeah, that's true. In the cycle of Lies, let's go over that. So in the beginning of it, Juliet is obviously at Lance's house before they come and pack it up and move it, in which he's trying to downplay, saying, hey, woe is me, I'm moving from my $10 million house to my $4 million house. But Juliet, like she said, for years, he was headbutting, and then now he's like, okay, come talk to me. And she felt that it was manipulation in a way for her to be on his good side.
Okay, but wait a minute, though. Headbutting with Juliet for years?
Well, with the media and everybody covering his story.
Well, I would say with the media.
Yeah.
I mean, because I have my own. I've dealt with about every journalist you can think of, and I think I've got into it with about every journalist as well. And they're the very first, and that I know of, the only American, and I could be wrong here, but to ever question the fraud from the very beginning was Tom Goldman of NPR. And this was back in 1999, and you can find Tom Goldman's, New York Velocity at NewYorkVelocity.com, and put in a search for NPR Tom Goldman. He did a piece where he questioned Lance's ride in 1999. And so he stuck to his guns, and I really admire Tom for that. I think a lot of journalists were absolutely, maybe some of them played both sides because they wanted to get that interview with Lance. Some journalists I will absolutely fault for being sycophantic fanboys. Some journalists wanted to ask the questions, but their editors or publishers just would not allow it. And so I wouldn't say for years Juliet butted heads with Lance. I would think that that's incorrect. But that's the truth. Lance is definitely reaching out to people. That's why he was excited to talk to the Detroit Free Press woman. And when he was just incessantly texting her, wanting to be in contact with her, I thought, oh, my God. And she said, I can't understand why. But he's really nice. And I said, because you're fresh ears. You don't know the ins and outs. And he's wanting to talk to anybody who will listen to him because he can't pull this. He could not pull that shit with Juliet or with Reed and Vanessa, or definitely not with Tom Goldman. He can even do it with people from Vela News or Cycling News. But he'll just listen to anybody who will give him the time of day. He will tell it to them now. You don't have to be rich. You'll influence, power, be a celebrity. he will talk to you if you will listen to what he has to say.
Yeah, that's so true. And there's some folks that are and on my systems here, I can see where people are listening to around the world and all that fun stuff. And there's a lot of Austin people that are listening to the show. And I've actually told some of his handlers, if you guys or he wants to call in, I invite you to do that, which I don't think will happen. But I think you're so correct and you're so right on the point. And Gary and I were talking about it this morning that during the show we did at noon, and Gary was saying the same thing like you said with Marianne Jones. There's so many folks that are saying, "Oh, I've never been tested positive," but obviously there's a way around the system. And he's still, and Lance, that you talked about earlier, Lance is still on that. I'm gonna lie to my grave, basically, is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, I mean, he how many opportunities does he want? And I mean, look, you can see it in Juliet's book. I mean, he really thought because he was telling people she gets it, and he thought that she was going to be sympathetic to him and write his story and write how the poor guy has been just so extremely wronged. Yet, if you see in the epilogue of her book, he's still at it. He is not sorry, if anything. I mean, it was on page 396 where he says, and this was back in June, so this is a guy who wants forgiveness from everybody, and he writes, can I swear? Did I already swear?
Yeah, go ahead. We're internet. We do what we want.
Well, so page 396, Juliet writes, this is Lance saying, I hated those motherfuckers, the Betsy's, the Lamons, Walsh. I hate him. Bad guy, cheater, got some stuff right, lied about a lot. Yeah, I doped. Blah, 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 blah. These people sucked. Honestly, I hated these people, and I still hate them. So, does that sound like a guy who's really going to want to tell the truth on everything? No. It sounds like a guy who's angry at the world that he got caught, that when he did his bullshit apology, it didn't go the way he wanted, and so he's mad at the world.
That is so true. That is so true. And the caller earlier said that, and he also said that the reason why he thinks Lance came out, and I think we've talked about it before, I'm sure we have, is that he came out on Oprah and everything, which is obviously really didn't do anything legally wise for him. I mean, obviously it hurt him legally wise, but said the reason why he did that because he feels that Lance wants to come back to race, and the only way he thought they would be able to do that is go on Oprah. But obviously that's not going to happen.
Well, Oprah is far different than giving a deposition.
Right.
Or under oath. So he wanted, I feel he did Oprah as he wanted to garner sympathy because, you know, you go on to Oprah, you saw what she did with Marianne Jones. He was counting on that. I think she did a lot better with him than she did with Marianne Jones. But it didn't do him any favors because you could just tell the body language was so extremely revealing. He was holding back. He wasn't talking about a lot of stuff. He kept saying, you know, he didn't want to name names. Well, I'm sorry, but he did not do this alone. So if he's not going to want to say what the people who were involved with, what they did, then, I mean, just his whole thing. But wait a minute, we're supposed to be talking about the books here, so let's talk about the books. And let's go back to
I was going to bring you back to that. Go ahead. Yeah, because you were talking about the cycle of lies, and real quick, he had actually, and I wrote this down. He had, when he learned about the title of the book, he was like, "Yeah, we need to change that title from Cycle of Lies."
Yeah. Well, again, you know, he thought, okay, he can control the narrative.
Exactly, and that's what Juliet had put as well. Like I said, when I talked to Vanessa a little bit earlier today, she said that, you know, Betsy has so much to say because this is her story, is what she told me.
Well, my story really isn't out there because, believe me, I think I would get a lot of journalists mad if I told my story.
And that's where, and it was one of those things. Like I talked to Neil Rogers, and I said, Neil, I said, you could be able to call in. He's like, man, I wish I could. He goes, I love Betsy. I want to call in, but I'll be on the road. So Neil's one of the guys that understands, and in my eyes, it may be different in your eyes, but I think that Neil knows what's going on. Obviously, he's been in the cycling game for a long time. He knows what's going on, and he understands what's happening right now.
Well, right now, yeah, but I mean, I don't think we really can say that about Cycling News and Vela News. The only one I know of from Vela News who was interested in the truth was Charles Pelkey, and nothing ever happened. The guy ended up getting fired. So I honestly I can't say that they were not on the bandwagon from the beginning. I mean, come on, they employed John Wilcoxon, and I can't share that. Are they doing good stuff now? Yeah, but you know what? It's easy now. It was hard to do it when back in 1999. The only one I know of was Tom Goldman, and then we have Gwen Knapp from the San Francisco Chronicle in 2003 who questioned Lance, and then, you know, just because she merely questioned him, he threatened the paper. I mean, it was ridiculous. So, but I digress. So.
Right. And that's what I talked to Vanessa about. I said, you know, when did you start this? When did you, almost like a little interview? And she's like, am I being interviewed? And I was like, no, Vanessa, I just want to know where it came from. She goes, oh, no, we started this years ago. She goes, we just started getting deeper and deeper and deeper and went, you know, we really got to bring this out to the public. And that's where her and Reed came along. But they've been with the Wall Street Journal for a long time before they started this.
Well, Reed was. I talked to Reed for the first time in 2008, and he's quite a bit younger than me, and so I don't think he was at the Wall Street Journal that long, but he started looking at this at the opportune time because Lance had come back. However, there is no doubt in my mind. And besides, the Wall Street Journal is the Wall Street Journal. They were not covering sports until I think it was 2008. I think I could be off there, but it was around that time. But they're a good example. They were not beholden to Lance. They did not need Lance to have people read their publication. They were well established before, like the people at the New York Daily News as well. They didn't care if they didn't get an interview with Lance. They were going to write what they were going to write, whether or not he was going to cooperate with them, because Lance was infamous for blacklisting people. So the Wall Street, that's what was nice about the Wall Street Journal. They didn't have to worry about one of Lance's sponsors pulling ads or getting them upset because they were doing the work as journalists.
Yeah, that's one of those things where you really get into it, and I wonder when the light bulb hit. I'm like, holy shit, we got something bigger than we actually imagined we'd ever would have on this. And when did they contact you about some stuff that's in the book in the Wheelman? Because like you said, you've known them for a while now. When did they say, hey, this is what we're going to do, Betsy, this is what we're going to go to publish?
I actually found out that they were writing their book through Juliet McCurr, because I kind of had an idea, but she told me that they were writing a book, and I said, wait a minute here. And so I didn't find out until late, but that whole thing is a story in and of itself. But they had to get their book out. They got their book out when they did. And so now it's out there. But they've done some really, really good stuff with with Lance Inc. and the business relationships behind it.
Yeah, because obviously Wall Street Journal, like you said, is the business part of it, because they can track the money, they can follow the money on what all this entails.
Well, that's the thing, is that, okay, every publication, every writer will make mistakes. There's going to be some inaccuracies. But, I mean, when you read the Wall Street Journal, you can trust what you're reading. And it was nice because, like I said, they never had to rely on Lance for an interview. And, of course, they're not a sports publication either.
Yeah, we're talking about the Willman, and I want to go back to Cycle of Lies. I'm gonna, us being the first time we're doing this book club, we're going to go back and forth just a little bit. But on Cycle of Lies, there was something that I had highlighted. Basically, when the last box was going into the moving truck at Lance's house, and they were, everything was still up, and the couch was still there. And he'd asked Juliet if she wanted to lay down on the couch and take a photo. And she's like, "Yeah, I didn't get the joke." And he said, "It'll be funny." That doesn't seem like someone of redemption. That doesn't seem like to me in that part of that book was someone like, you know what, I screwed up, I'm sorry. It's like, hey, it's a joke. Let's take a picture of you laying on the couch with the jerseys and everything. So,
well, newsflash, he's not sorry. That's why he doesn't care. It's because he's sorry he got caught.
Right. I mean, like you said, Juliet had access to him. Being there on moving day and everything like that. And she tried to, in my eyes, in my opinion, of course, she tried to say or humanize it by going, look, he's out here with his kids. His kids are going to have to move. This is the only home they've known. And it's almost like a woe is me kind of thing in my eyes. Not relaying the fact that... not relaying the fact that...
house,
yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so what's his point? Boo-hoo? I mean, if moving from a mansion to another really nice high-end house is the worst thing that those kids are going to go through, then they're very fortunate. I mean, but that just shows how superficial he is.
Yeah, because on the next day, I mean, it even has it in here, in the dark before dawn, on the next day, they left the big house for good. Where did they go? Oh, they went to Hawaii.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand, is how is it possible, it just doesn't make sense to me, that he tapes with Oprah on Monday, and then he's not even there for his older children who really needed him? He takes off on Tuesday when this thing is going to air on Thursday? Right. I mean, he's selfish, though, but that's how he is.
And it goes on to talk about the Gundersons and so many things going on. I mean, the books are amazing. And I've got someone on our ispeakforyou.net book club Facebook page. It says page 389 on Cycle of Lies. How did Lance charm you?
Well, that's Juliet's words. I was willing. I extended the olive branch to him,
right?
And so, if me wanting to give him a chance meant, I mean, those are her words. I didn't find it as charming. I thought, okay, in that phone call, he seemed sincere in that one phone call before Oprah, even though it was the day before he was going to tape with her. However, when he refused to admit to the hospital room and he said he wasn't going to do it for legal reasons, I thought, red flag, red flag, red flag. We'll see what happens. His actions speak louder than words. So when I was willing to give him the chance, it was smart on his part, and I'm embarrassed to say it worked because it kept me at bay. I didn't publicly question him. I didn't call him out on the bullshit. He was refusing to cooperate with USADA. Then the criminal or the civil case came along, and I was even quiet then. So he had one of his arch rivals quiet because I wanted to see, okay, is he going to do the right thing? Is he going to do the right thing? Is he going to do the right thing? So I wouldn't say he charmed me. I was wanting to believe that there was some good in him and that he would actually do the right thing. And 3 months later, I saw that it was all, I'm embarrassed to say it was an act. He just had no intention on following up with anything.
Yeah, because you've known him obviously for years. Frankie, with his background and everything like that, coming up in the races, coming up with Lance and Chan McRae and those guys. You were in the hospital room, obviously, so you knew him before all this shit happened. Has his demeanor, in your opinion, changed? Obviously, Juliet put in a cycle of lies that way, but has his demeanor changed in your eyes since the hospital room to today?
Well, what's interesting is that I think this shows money and power don't change somebody. It just brings out what's really there. If you're a kind person, if you don't have money, you're going to be very kind if you do fall into money or you earn money. If you're a jerk without money, you're going to be that much bigger of a jerk if you have a lot of money. So I think it just really, the true person just came out with all that stuff. I don't think money changes people. It just brings out who you really are.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's my perspective.
That should be the name of a book.
Pardon?
That should be the name of a book. But no, in the Cycle of Lies, Juliet is talking about in one of the sections that Lance, as you pointed out earlier, has come from a broken home, had numerous men come in and out of his life as a guardian, so to speak, and they're trying to play that is why he is how he is. However, I know I've seen it on your Facebook. I've seen it, so many folks saying, hey, I came from a broken home and I didn't end up like this. But Juliet has that in her book as well.
Well, yeah, but that, again, I mean, like it's somebody's take. I mean, I don't know anybody who has had an absolutely perfect childhood. My dad is from the old country in Yugoslavia, and I remember one time he used a belt. He didn't whip me with it, but he gave me one whack with a belt, and I caught the message. I got the message. So, you know, my family growing up, I was yelled at a lot. I yell at my kids. I spanked my toddler when we had a toddler, when one of our kids was a toddler, so they wouldn't go across the street when they ran into the street. You know, I whacked him on the butt. Did he do it again? No. So, I mean, like, of course, that's completely different than than the kind of upbringing that Lance had. But my God, I would argue that Dave Zabriskie had a pretty shitty childhood. If you read Bill Strickland's memoir, 10 Points, talk about shitty, that guy had a really shitty childhood. These people decided to break the cycle, and instead of repeating it, they didn't turn out like monsters like their father. They broke the cycle, and they are decent men. They are, and I don't know Dave Zabriskie. I've never met the guy, but you have people who had rotten childhoods. You can continue the cycle as an adult, or you can break it. Lance decided to take it to a different level and continue it.
Yeah, because obviously Greg LeMond did not take the cycle that he grew up with.
No.
So yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, even myself, same thing, broken home, survived abuse, all that stuff. But I didn't become what I was or what I was living in. So it's one of those things. But Vanessa and Reed with the Willman, and obviously Juliet McCure with the Cycle of Lies did a great thing, and I'm looking forward to seeing. And I had someone ask me today, when is Betsy going to come out with her book?
You know, I should. And if anything, just to set the record straight, because you know I couldn't understand where in Juliet's book, and I asked her this question. I emailed her, and I haven't heard a response yet, but she has 3 different versions from George on what happened. On page 65, Max Testa admits to Juliet back in 2006 that, and this is in 2006, that he told the riders how much EPO to take and when to take it. So he verbally taught them, and he also gave them an instruction pamphlet filled with studies on what EPO is. Then we go, and George Hincapie says on page 219 that he found this thermos in the refrigerator, asked Frankie what it was. Frankie just didn't want to tell him. He said that it was a vial that would help with recovery. And so Frankie didn't want to tell George. So finally, it says in the book that Hincapie got Frankie to admit that it was EPO in the vial. So just from that instance alone, George goes into Alex Gibney's film and then into Juliet and to the Detroit Free Press said, Frankie was my role model, and I started doing EPO because of him. However, on page 345, George says that Hincapie understood to mean that Armstrong wanted a Motorola team to use EPO because he was complaining on how fast the Peloton was going. So we have several different versions on what in the hell George is saying here. None of it, well, I don't know. The guy, I have my... So anyways, he ended up calling Frankie to apologize, to say he shouldn't have talked to the Free Press, he shouldn't have done the interview, he shouldn't have gone on camera with Alex. He agreed with Frankie that Frankie did not teach him how to dope, but yet it continues. So, yeah, maybe I should write a book, because I'm telling you, people would start shitting their pants saying, oh, my God, what is she going to say?
Well, not only that, because you've got the emails and you've got obviously recorded messages that were sent to you or Frankie for that matter, basically damaging your reputation and everything, and that's where a lot of this has come from. Because, like I said, I've known Frankie for years, and I know he's a great guy. I would literally bend over backwards for him, but I feel like he was treated like shit, to be honest with you.
He was.
Yeah, because of what was going on, and he lost his job in the industry, and thank God he's got it back with Kenda. And I look forward to seeing him and shaking his hand and buy him a ice cold water one day. But it's one of those things, like, people don't realize. They're like, okay, I hear this, but they don't see the folks or the friends they're damaged by this.
No, and that's one thing. I think a lot of people might think, oh, big deal, you were called a few names, get over it. No, it went far beyond that. I mean, Lance had his target on 2 people, and it was really, I feel for a long time, it was me and Greg. And with Greg, he succeeded because he destroyed his bike company. And that effectively shut Greg up. And with me, it was, I don't know if I was just stupid or tenacious or a little bit of both, but I just kept plugging along because I saw what was happening to us, and it was at the point where I didn't care what people who didn't know me, I didn't care what they thought of me, but when it affected Frankie's ability to work in the sport, then I said, okay, this is ridiculous. And so that's when I put my foot down, and I started fighting back publicly. I was always fighting back, but in a very quiet way. But this time I said, okay, I'm not going to do it anymore. And Lance and I talked about that, because he would push me and I would just push him back twice as hard. But I had to be very, very smart about it.
Yeah, I'd asked Vanessa, I said, hey, how has your life changed since the book is coming out and all the press and everything? She's like, well, no, not really, because I've been doing this for years, so nothing's really changed. But to a lot of folks, I mean, obviously life doesn't go on day by day. It's changed because of the Willmans come out. I mean, obviously Tyler's written his book, Floyd's written his book, stuff like that, but they're really not in the industry anymore. You know what I mean? I mean, Frankie's still in the industry, he's still getting paid by it, and he's come out and said, I mean, like you had said real quick, there's a young writer, I don't have his name, he's following me on Twitter, but he's on a clean program, he's on True Sport. It's one of those things like these guys have been there, done that. They've come out and said the truth, and they're still in the industry, where the guys who haven't played the cards right, so to speak, are out of it. I mean, obviously Floyd's gone, Tyler's retired, enjoying life, but they should have done it a different way in my eyes.
They should have, but I mean, it was. I think, and this is my personal opinion. Pay back the money that you that you made USADA spend in going after your bogus lawsuits, and that's what I feel. I don't know what anybody's financial situation is, but if it does come where they're able to pay back USADA, then I think that's another step in the right direction. That's my opinion. But I mean, if Floyd and Tyler are the only two people who ever apologized to me for saying, "Look, I saw what he did to you, and I remained quiet, and I'm very sorry."
Yeah, and I know Tyler is a great guy, and I saw him at Tour California 2008, I think it was. He came, or maybe it was 2009 with Rock Racing, and he just looked beaten. I mean, he came back from a suspension, and he was just beaten. And I talked to him. I said, "Hey, how you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm just tired," and he just looked tired. So Tyler is one of those guys that he was covering his backside, I will say, because he knew what would happen once he came out. Floyd, on the other hand, Floyd had nothing to lose when he came out.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, but it's a very good example of just telling the truth and not living the lie, So. Yeah,
and you talked about it about give back the money that you earned or you did in your defense to give it to USADA because you fought against USADA and all these lawyers and all this stuff. And we had talked about it too. All the money that was made by these sponsors, where's that money?
Yeah.
That money's in their pockets.
Oh, well, of course, but come on. I mean, Nike, Trek, Oakley, they don't care. And then we live look at our society. Do you think they care? Do you think Nike cares? People care that Nike sponsored Marion Jones until the better end, Tiger Woods. I don't know if they sponsor A-Rod, but I mean,
yeah, they sponsor A-Rod.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. They don't care. Nike, in my opinion, Nike is just morally bankrupt.
Yeah, and they just started sponsoring Team Red, White, and Blue. It's a veterans running organization that I'm a part of, being a veteran. And I was like, I'm not wearing any of that. Sorry, it's just my personal thing, and I won't do it.
Yeah, I'd agree. Is anybody calling in? Do you want to take any calls? Or
I've had a couple, but I'm not going to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. You can interrupt me. I mean, anything else?
No, I think that's it. Let me get some calls and then I'll give you a call later.
Me?
Well, yeah, I'll call you tomorrow or something. Let you sleep.
Oh, wait. Okay, I'm a little confused here. Like, I thought people call in while we're talking to talk about this.
Yeah, they can. So I'll wait till another caller calls in, then we'll put you both on at the same time.
Okay.
So what when you talk to Juliet and everything, what enticed her to write this book?
I'm not even touching that.
Really? Wow, that's a shock.
I'm not going to touch that.
Yeah, because Reed and Vanessa, obviously with the Willman, like you said, the money aspect of it, Wall Street Journal is playing a real huge interest in this due to the lawsuits, the whistleblower lawsuit that Floyd and the government has against Lance and so many others in that suit, because they can go for the money and look at the money and everything. And it's going to be interesting to say, because obviously, like we talked about a couple weeks ago on the show, that Lance got away from going in front of the arbitration committee because of a little Texas law here in Texas. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is because I know Reed and Vanessa had their book proposal. They were going to do a book way before Juliet's. Maybe even in, I don't know when Juliet decided she was going to do a book, but from what I've learned, Reed and Vanessa had, theirs was long in the works, way before Juliet even got a proposal together. So, but like I said, I mean, they've done stellar work. They've gotten some really good scoops. So yeah. So it was good because the business side of Lance was something that really people just did not know, and they put it together very nicely in Wheelman.
Well, because there was so much involved. I mean, obviously, Lance, Johan, the bike guy on the bike delivery guy, the bus stopping in the middle of the road, putting up the hood like, oh, it's broken down, them laying in the middle of the bus, doing all that stuff. Obviously, all that's in the Wheelman and everything. It was such bigger than just the team. I mean, obviously, there was a lot of hanger-oners or chamois sniffers that we called them that would do anything and everything for the team.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, like, that was all news. That was news to me. And I think, I don't know if it was Reed or Vanessa got that one, talking to Floyd. People didn't know that happened.
Right. And
when we had read about it in the Wall Street Journal, Frankie had been covering the tour with the American TV station. I don't even know what the name was at the time.
Oh, well,
but the American TV station. So he said he remembered driving by along with other people, journalists, and they saw the bus on the side of the road. And, yeah, they thought it was odd, but again, they thought, there was something wrong with the bus. Little did any of us know that there was a huge, transfusion going on. It's just disgusting.
Now, we, a little bit off topic and everything, but we've since learned that Greg has been invited to be an ambassador and everything over in Europe now, which is totally cool. Thank goodness Greg is finally getting some kind of redemption. But it's one of those things, like it may be a little too late. I mean, I don't know.
For Greg?
Yeah.
Well, you can't. I mean, it's like one of those things. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. You lose a lot of. You lose time, money, energy when you have lawsuits, when you're fighting against somebody who's trying to destroy you. So, I think I don't think it's a little too late. I think this is nice. Eurosport has, so many millions of viewers throughout the world. I think this is a very, very good thing for Greg. He's working on, I don't even know exactly what businesses he has, but, he seems to be bouncing back nicely. But again, it's just like, when you've lost so much money, it's it's tough. But you know what? I mean, you just got to bounce back up and I guess make lemonades from it, however hard that is.
So Gary was talking about he's had a lot of jaw-dropping moments in reading Cycle of Lies. What is the one? What is the one jaw-dropping moment that you've had reading that book?
I would say that she just completely, his whole upbringing, we learned that at least I learned that he learned to lie and manipulate from his mom. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, and just how rotten it was from the very beginning. It was just one big lie, peppered along with a lot of little lies from the absolute very beginning. And so the book starts with this huge big lie, but then I guess you could say, well, it ends with the truth in the epilogue, because he shows his true colors with his just vitriolic rant on how much he hates. And so that was it was pretty interesting to read that. And it was so it was pretty interesting to read that she gets him just to, the true Lance comes out. It's not a guy who wants redemption. It's not a guy who wants to be forgiven. It's a guy who, or maybe he wants to be forgiven, but he doesn't want to have to do what it takes. He's not authentic, but here he's authentic when he's just talking about how much he hates me and other people. I mean, that's like, wow. You've got to be kidding me. After what he did to so many people, after what he did to the sport, he's the one that's angry? He's delusional, you know?
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. And there was one, the young man that called earlier in the hour, I had asked him the question. I go, obviously, Lance winning 7 tours, there's a lot of people who never ridden a bike in their life, or maybe not since they were a kid, and they started to pick the bike back up and everything. So obviously that, in him winning, that was good in regard, but obviously he did it the wrong way. And it's one of those things in my eyes is those folks that picked up bikes, good on you, getting into our sport and what we love and everything like that. But don't put the bikes down just because one person spoiled it, or where you say one of the bad apples or whatever.
Yeah.
But you were saying like the money thing, and Lance had, it was in the cycle of lies. Lance had even pointed out, hey, all those people made millions of dollars off of me. Oakley, Trek, obviously Nike, and who did that? I did. So he literally, it was like, I did all that. I made those folks millions of dollars. It was me, not anybody else. Me.
Yeah.
But my point on that is well, guess what? You personally have made millions and millions of dollars off of cancer survivors or those going through cancer. And did you give that money back? No, I don't think so.
No. Mm-mm. No, I don't think he's going to either.
No. And the same question with the cycle of lies. What was your aha moment? What was your jaw-dropping moment in the Wheelman?
Well, I don't know if there was it was just the totality of when you saw how they pointed out how Steve Johnson from USA Cycling, how could somebody just be so completely inept at their job? And again, it was Lance Inc. It was the businesses that supported him and all the connections. So that was it. It was so intertwined, everybody, that it was, so that they put it all together. So that's what was good. And again, I read Wheelman months ago, so it's not fresh in my mind like Cycle of Lies.
Cycle of Lies is right. One thing Vanessa did say before we sign off and everything, but one of the things Vanessa did say is in the paperback book that's coming out in July, there's going to be a whole new section about the latest and greatest of what they've discovered.
Yeah, well, and I think that is going to be really good. I look forward to that because, of course, we see so much that has come out, So I think I look forward to that,
So do you have they told you much about it, about what they've discovered or what they've come up with?
No.
So Edwin's on chat with me, and he said, like you just said, everything about the women, everything was intertwined. Even how Lamond was invested with Tom.
How Lamond was what?
Invested with Weisel.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So and we can go on that. I mean, it's a whole different thing, but with that regard, obviously Tom being a part of the USA Cycling, bringing Lance on board with the developmental and everything like that, there's a lot of money in, like I said earlier, power brokers out there that are praying to God that Lance does not talk.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, but when the ship is sinking, the rats are going to jump off too.
Yeah, and I think that's where Nike, I mean, obviously our good friend Nike that we love so much, they were the first ones to go, so.
Yeah, but I mean, come on, they didn't go, they only went because they would have looked worse than they already did by just sticking by him,
Yeah, so true. So how is Auschwitz staying out of this mess is the question.
You're asking the wrong person. I have no idea.
Yeah, because obviously there's a lot of folks that
How is Chris Carmichael? There's on his bio page for he's doing some sort of grand final. I mean, there is no mention of Lance Armstrong at all. And in the Armstrong lie, it's very interesting because Lance justifies his going to Ferrari for Comeback 2.0 because he said there was absolutely no one else he could trust. And when I saw it in the theater one time, somebody had said aloud, "What about Carmichael?" And it was so true. What about Carmichael? You said he was your front guy. But then again, I think it was in Armstrong's War where Ferrari said Carmichael was an idiot and he didn't know what he was doing. So he was nothing more than a front man. And he has gotten away unscathed. And Chris is one of those guys who was in the hospital room. And he knows what happened in that hospital room. But, I mean, he made millions off of Lance.
Millions.
He doesn't want to hurt that.
And one of the things that got you and I in the last 48 hours, and I can't remember. I'm old. I'm getting dementia or something. I don't know. But there was something going on that Dr. Ferrari was going to be at some event or some group ride, and you get coaching from him. Do you remember that?
I don't. Somebody had posted something on my Facebook page.
Yeah.
And said that. He's still running his training business from what it looks like.
That's just incredible. I don't see how these guys are going by and doing what they're doing without someone going, hey, you need to stop this crap.
Yeah, I don't know why. Why is Steve Johnson keeping his job? I don't understand. Kevin Livingston has gotten away completely unscathed. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah, and even Edwin just put that. Kevin Livingston still, I won't say what he put, but he says he's in the basement of a Mellow Johnny's running the shop down there, the training shop and everything. So you're correct on that.
Yeah. So yeah,
it's just something.
Yeah,
it's just something. And there's so much more going to be coming out in this. And obviously, we're going to get more and more in depth with the book because, like I said, this is the first time that you and I have done this. But we're going to get really in depth with the book, Cycle of Lies, and obviously the Wheelman. Looking forward to coming out in the paperback in July to see what else they could come up with. And again, Lance's handlers or Lance himself that are listening, if you want to chime in, hey, you're more than welcome to join us and put your 2 cents in. We would love to have you. And it's just for everybody. It's just not Betsy and I going to sit here and talk about it. Because that's the big thing is I know after this I'm probably going to get a phone call or whatever, and it's one of those, hey, come on air and talk. Don't talk to me and or text me or whatever. I understand what's going on. I know what's going on. I've been doing this, racing scene since 1980. So come on, let's talk. Let's open up the dialogue and go with it. We're not going to pay you millions of dollars to sit on a sofa in front of Oprah to do it either. So you may get a bottle of water and a taco from a local taco shop, but that's about it.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good.
So, but Betsy, I appreciate you calling in and or me calling you and everything you're doing, and obviously God bless you and keep going on. Oh, I just got a text from Edwin saying that the Troll, his movie's coming out. David Walsh, his movie is coming out.
Yeah, I think his movie is coming out. I don't know when it's coming out. This is the one starring Dustin Hoffman, it should be pretty exciting.
Wow, Dustin Hoffman, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
One of my favorite actors, of course. But no, God bless you, Betsy, and all the best to the family. Tell Frankie we said all the best, and we'll probably see him at Redlands, I think, if not sometime during the year.
There.
Yeah, so sometime during the year. And he's like, Tootsie, really? Edwin's on here on chat. So, but again, thanks for everything you're doing, and then I'll talk to you later.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Right, thanks, Betsy. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Again, so much going on with this. If you have anything you want to say, give us a call. I'm actually going to sign off here in about 5 minutes. But we're going to take a quick commercial break so I can get some water in me, and we'll be right back. Oh, yeah, ladies and gentlemen. This segment brought to you by SanAntonioTriathlete.com for all your training, rankings, race, news, swimming and cycling safety, even wetsuit rentals. SanAntonioTriathlete.com. Oh, yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Crossman, World Class Drum Corps, and I Speak For You Racing Events want you to save the dates. 13 and 14 June 2014. That's right, the Crossman, Texas's only world-class drum corps, representing San Antonio, Texas to the world, presenting their second annual 1 mile run, walk, stroll, crawl, whatever you need to do. How fast can you run 1 mile? All information on ispeakforyou.net or crossman.org. I say save the dates 13 and 14 June. The run is on the 14th, but the 13th is their MMX, their dress rehearsal, before they go out on tour around the country. Find out more information again at crossman.org or at ispeakforyou.net. So again, thanks. We'd like to thank everybody for listening in or calling and commenting. This is going to be every 2 weeks, every other Thursdays when we're going to do the book club, and you're more than welcome to tweet us. Of course, the Twitter is hashtag ISpeakForYouRadio. You can follow us online, ispeakforyouRadio.net, and of course, our Twitter is ISpeakForYou. So everybody take care. Have a good weekend. Be safe out there, and make sure you hydrate. And for all those cyclists, keep the rubber side down. And for all those runners, have a great run. Enjoy each step. This is Mark with ISpeakForYou.net. Good night and take care.
Do what each other say.